Here's a short presentation to follow up on our discussion of polling. This is from the University of Texas, Texas Tribune. This is a statewide survey that was conducted in the state of Texas. And this is a summary of the results, and I'm going to use this to illustrate some of the things that I talked about in the presentation on polling. The first thing, obviously, that you want to pay attention to is the N. And right here, it tells you the N, and it's equal to 1,200 adults in the state of Texas. So any adult over the age of 18 could be included in this survey. So the idea theoretically is that it will provide a representative sample of all of the 26 million people who live in the state of Texas. The next thing that you want to pay attention to is right here, the margin of error. And right here is what's called the plus or minus. And without getting into the specifics, you see that the plus or minus is 2.83%. So this again gives you a range of possible values for the responses in the survey. So, for example, just going down here to question number 2, generally speaking, would you say that you're extremely interested in politics, public affairs, somewhat interested, not very interested, or not at all interested? These are what are these numbers over here on the right-hand side. These are what are called point estimates. So 44% of the people in the survey said that they were extremely interested in politics and public affairs. 43% of the respondents in the survey said they were somewhat interested in public affairs. But statistically speaking, there's no difference between the two because this difference, 1 point, is less than the margin of error that you see up here, which is 2.83%. So there's really no real difference between these particular things. And what you see throughout the rest of this document are the various questions that were included in the survey. And again, so when we talk about the things that are important to know, the first is the N, the number of people who were included. The second thing is the margin of error. And then the third thing is the number of questions. And virtually all of the questions that are included in this particular survey are closed-ended questions. So again, for example, here in question 2, this is a closed-ended question. These are the only choices that respondents get. So the people who are asked the question, they have to choose one of these 5 outcomes. Right? Here in question 3, in terms of elections, these are the only options that you get to choose from. Number 4, this is a most important problem. The people who participated in the survey, these were the choices that they could give. This is a closed-ended question because they were limited to giving one of these 32 different responses. And what you see is when you've got so many different responses, there's really no distinguishing any of these top issues. So basically, the headline would be, Texans are concerned about the economy, but the truth is there's no difference between the economy, federal spending, national security, political corruption, because the margin of error would basically mean all of these things are roughly equal. Okay, so again, when you see then the most important problem facing the state of Texas, border security stands out, and it's basically border security and immigration. Everything else is basically just noise. Okay, again, you see down here the job that Barack Obama has done as president. And you see about 37% of Texans approve of the job that he has done, and a majority, 54%, disapprove of the job that the president's done. Not surprisingly here, about Congress, that about 20% of Texans approve of the job that Congress is doing. Texans were fairly pessimistic about the direction of the country, 59%. But they do have a lot more confidence in the state of Texas that we're moving in the right direction as compared to the nation as a whole. So what you see is when you go through this document at the University of Texas Politics Project, you can get all of this information. And again, this is some pretty dated information where Ted Cruz is a pretty popular guy in terms of Republican primary voters in Texas. And again, when you continue to scroll through this, you see lots of different questions that are asked, and I'm going to scroll all the way down to the very end just to highlight one other point. We talk about political orientation, and again, these are things that we use to get a sense of what people are thinking about. It's no surprise here that Texans are quite conservative. 48% of Texans identify themselves as conservative in some form or another. When you look at party ID, not as big a gap as you might otherwise expect, but 49% of Texans identify themselves as Republicans, 40% as Democrats. And this is the 7-point scale. So the first question is, generally speaking, would you think of yourself as a Democrat, Independent, or Republican? And then based on what your answer is to this question, then, if you say that you're a Democrat, are you a strong Democrat, not very strong, or a lean Democrat? Okay, so that's kind of how you get to this breakdown. And then the rest of this is just demographics. But this is often one of the most important parts of looking at any particular survey, is being able to look at the questions that are included so that you can see how the reviewers or how the interviewers frame the choices for the people who are participating in the survey. So hopefully, I hope this presentation gave you some sense of taking some general concepts and applying it to an actual survey. And if you've got any additional questions, feel free to post them on Blackboard or send me an email.